Welcome into NHL Tonight, first shift for a Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. EJ Radick here alongside Kevin Weeks.
What's up, Each?
Good to see you.
You as always.
Yeah,
Let's go.
You were just showing me a nice picture of your dad. They
Oh,
were wearing
yeah.
some old gear and everything.
Can't get any gear. Been here 16 years. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, well,
what do you got to do?
I just hope you can get him off the bus and onto the planes. I mean,
Exactly.
you're a very, a wonderful son in certain areas. But, riding the trailways across Canada is not great.
So good.
Give him a plane ticket.
So
All right,
good.
listen, we got J.D. Lindbergh hit the parlay last night, so let's get him right in here. There he is. Look at this, happy as could be. Look at him.
Oh, yeah.
Always happy when we're making the shift. He's a little coin.
You dialed it back. I think on my advice, I'm going to take a little credit. On my
Should.
advice, you had like 9 different things last week, didn't work out. This week you went
Focused.
simple and you were a winner.
Got back to basics a little bit, but hey, we're 2 for 4 in the new year. It's a good January
Pretty good.
for the first shift parlay group.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And congratulations to your sidekick there, our researcher Lawrence Goldstein. He's not on today. He was there with you yesterday, giving you good advice. And it was a big birthday for Lawrence yesterday. We love Lawrence, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
belated.
LG.
Happy birthday, Lawrence.
Yeah.
LG. So he's celebrated by you guys hitting big
that parlay.
on the parlay.
That's right.
All right. Great job. Yeah. We'll be looking for you next week.
All right, let's
to win
go.
Again. Let's get to first things first. A lot going on around the National Hockey League. And how about the game in Vegas last night between the Stars and Golden Knights? Great play here by Shea Theodore. I thought he was going to end it right there, but it goes the other way. And Wyatt Johnston, this back and forth with Roope Hintz. Poor Jack Eichel. He didn't know what to do here. And there it is, Wyatt Johnston completing a hat trick, Weeksy.
Absolutely.
OTGWG.
That was dirty. What a play. Perfectly executed give and go between Roope Hintz and Wyatt Johnston. Wyatt Johnston, young Toronto native, with another young Toronto native, Tyler Seguin.
Look at that.
That's impressive stuff.
Yeah.
And while we're on it, I just talked to Tyler Seguin in Dallas. Congrats on the new baby to him and his wife.
He's one of the
one of the great guys.
Always love
Absolutely.
Tyler Seguin.
Me too.
Get healthy, get back
Yes.
in the lineup soon.
Yes.
And congratulations on the newborn. But Wyatt Johnston, he's picked it up lately.
He has, and he can. You see the way he plays in the playoffs. But to me,
at
he
this.
has some game breaker in him.
Yeah.
And I was thinking in the game against Carolina last week, I'm like, there's more in him. Well, he's turned the dial up. Take a look at these numbers in January in 14 games. These are impressive numbers. And to me, he's been more assertive offensively.
Yeah.
Like he's getting to the heart of the ice more. He's using his skills in areas, in the middle of the ice where it's now him and him against a defenseman and goalie. And that's tailor-made for his skill.
I love that one shot there. You saw he fooled Aiden Hill.
He did.
He looked like he was going
Yep.
to one side. Aiden Hill just leaned, and he you could see his wrist. He kind of turned it a little bit and beat Aiden Hill there. He's just a clever young player.
He is.
And he's going to be a terrific player for the Stars for many years to come. 17 points in 14 games.
It's impressive. They have great amateur scouts, and their amateur scouts have done a really good job with the Dallas Stars in shaping some of the core pieces and some of these other young core pieces that have come in, like a Wyatt Johnston, who's very, very talented. And I got to tell you, I spoke to him at Player Media Tour. I was very impressed with him.
Yeah. For a young guy.
For a young
Still
guy.
young man.
Yes, and Joe Pavelski deserves a lot of credit, too, because he helped mentor him. He lived with them earlier in his career there in Dallas, and I think he's got a ton of upside. He's a really kind of a up-and-coming offensive wizard in this league.
Yeah,
if you will.
no question about it. So a big night for Wyatt Johnson.
Yeah,
the
no
night
doubt.
did not go without some trouble for the Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
Miro Heiskanen ends up getting hurt on this kind of crazy play with Mark Stone. And like Stone he gets tripped a little bit by Roope Hintz. You can see he's like off balance.
Yeah.
And then he kind of lunges him, at Heiskanen, and Heiskanen goes down. He's got the knee injury. Here's another look at it here. You can see that contact with the left skate.
Yeah.
Boy, this was a tough one because, Miro Heiskanen is such an important piece of the puzzle for the Dallas Stars. Gets right on the knee there. He flips over. He has to leave the game. He did not come back. Still awaiting word on what the status is going to be. I mean, he's obviously a big part of the Stars. He's a big part of Team Finland in the Four Nations tournament. But, boy, it was a tricky play. When you look at it, because there was a lot of discussion last night, is that a dirty play? Should be suspended? What did you think?
Mark Stone's never been a dirty player. And I know their head coach, Pete
DeBoer
DeBoer, said that, who
yeah.
coached him in Vegas before. And I've been on Mark Stone's game because what impressed me is when he came in the league with Ottawa, and Ottawa was in a downturn, this guy, every time he popped off the page when you watched him play, he plays an honest game. He plays a 200-foot game. Now, at first glance last night when I saw that, not to make light of it, but I thought he was playing for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
Like he was on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
He was down the turnpike.
Well, it did look like.
That's what it looked like initially, but once they went to different replays, you could see the fact that he clipped skates with rope of hints. And I can tell you, no matter how good of a skater you are, how agile, how great of a skater, once you get clipped and you start a falling motion, it's kind of like a yard sale.
Yeah.
Anything, and that's what happened to Mark Stone here, Reach.
Yeah.
Once he clipped skates, he's lunging forward. He's not trying to get the knee. He's just trying to make himself useful in some capacity to try to like glove the puck or whatever. There was no intent to injure at all on that play. It was an innocent play and kind of a two-part collision that ultimately resulted in the injury to the young Miro Heiskanen, who we love.
Yeah. So we're hoping that Miro is going to be okay.
Yes.
I would agree with you about Mark Stone. I mean,
Yeah.
like I will say this: people say who's a clean player, who's a dirty player. Like in the National Hockey League, let me clue you in on something.
Yeah.
It's a rough game.
Yeah, it is.
And like if you're going to have success in this league, there are going to be moments when you're going to have to
Get a little sandy.
get a little sandy. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Mark Stone did anything dirty. I will say that he got thrown off balance, in my view, and that he was looking to still get a piece.
Just get a little piece.
To break up the play if
Yeah.
he could, and it
Yeah.
ended up in a bad result. So what do you do about that? I don't know. I don't think there's anything you can do about
No.
it. We haven't heard that Department of Player Safety weighing in at all.
No.
So I think you got to hope that Miro Heiskanen is going to be okay.
Exactly.
And you move on from there. But it was
High-speed
certainly
game.
it is.
Yeah.
And it was certainly a really unfortunate result of a play that was just one of those plays that, you watch hockey night after night after night, like you just don't see a play like that, and then there it is.
And that's the thing, and just to kind of add to your point, I think oftentimes people underestimate or don't fully understand nor can they appreciate the speed of the game and just how chaotic it is at ice level. And the NHL is controlled. You go down and watch the AHL, watch the East Coast League, watch college hockey, major, junior, it's chaotic.
Yeah.
And it's within typically 200 by 85. Right? And sometimes you get a 200 by 100, depending on the surface, Olympic sheet, but typically it's within 200 by 85. That speed, that temp. Sometimes you just run out of racetrack.
Yeah.
You literally run out of room, and things just happen spontaneously, as was the case.
Well, hopefully Miro is going to be okay. We're waiting to hear what his status is going to be. Meanwhile, last night, how about those Islanders? We talked about them yesterday, Weeksy, and they've been rolling. And you know what? They played the Avalanche twice this year, and they beat them pretty good both times, 5-2 and 6-2. And this was the case. Sorokin, who we talked about yesterday, now he had a rough start to the season, or he had some rough moments, but over the last several games and during this winning streak, over the last 10 games or so, he has been excellent, and he was excellent in this game again. You can see the numbers during the 5-game streak, and again, I go back, the penalty kill, they've killed 8 of 9. They're not taking as many penalties, so that's good, and they're killing them off, and look at the save percentage.
We talked about it here, as you just pointed out, yesterday evening, on this very show. One thing I know is every time you think the Islanders are done, they just rise back up the ashes. I said yesterday, you're almost down for the 3 count in wrestling.
Yeah.
They just pop up. They just pop up somehow, like Hulk Hogan back in the day. They just pop up. And here's the other thing. I got to say this. I've been a big Patrick Waugh proponent as a coach for a very long time. I was campaigning. I thought he should have been in the NHL for years. After his departure, he went and won the Memorial Cup back in Quebec in junior. Patrick Waugh and Lou Lamoriello have done it all, have seen it all, and know it all each.
Yeah.
We're talking how many decades, especially Lou's case.
Yeah. A lot of cups, different jobs.
International, you name it. And just when everybody else thinks they're done, they find a way to squeeze some juice out of this team. And it's a credit to them. It's a credit to the guys on the roster for believing as well. Anders Lee having a major season again.
Yep.
And Sorokin, as you had asked yesterday, I said sometimes your goalie needs to steal one for you. I thought he was really good as this game went along.
Yeah.
He started to play well as the game went along.
Very well.
Yes.
He made a number of big saves in the game. And Patrick Waugh had a goalie interference call that he challenged and he won. And I thought he was bang on because Jack Drury kind of backed caught
into
the
him.
blocker. I thought it was a pretty easy challenge once you see it because he was so deep in the blue paint. Can we put the playoff race up in the Eastern Conference again? I just like to take it. I want to point out something about the Islanders and just goes to show you how crazy this race is, right? They're the Islanders, right? There are several teams in between them and a playoff spot. The Islanders are 51 points. The Bruins are 56. That's 5 points. The Islanders have 3 games in hand. Islanders win those games, 53, 55, 57. Now they're ahead of the Bruins. So like, this is going to be a crazy, crazy finish. If anybody thinks that anybody is out of this, I'm not even writing off the Sabres.
Can't.
Who had a big night last night and beat the Bruins. I'm not writing anybody off because these teams, that's who they've been. They win 3, they lose 2. They win 5, they lose 4. They have overtime games, they get extra points there. I think that it's still anybody's game for those spots. I don't think anybody's going to break away. I think it's really for the last spot. I do think Tampa will be in there, although they have struggled of late a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, for me, this is down the stretch they come.
Game 82.
Yeah.
It's down the back stretch, and it'll go to the wire, which is game 82, the wire in horse racing or in track. I'm telling you now, the way this has been so compacted, and it's shaken up now in a snow globe in the Eastern Conference. We were just talking about how hot the Rangers had been, which they had been. Seemed like they found their groove. And then all of a sudden, Carolina drapes them up last night at the Garden, 4-0. Montreal was cooking.
Freddie Anderson was great. We'll have Eric Tulsky on the show a little bit later.
Absolutely.
We can talk to him about the big trade and also
For sure.
Freddie Anderson being back.
We had Tuukka yesterday. Tuukka said the same thing.
Yeah.
Boston, they get 2 games, they're playing well. Then all of a sudden, we saw what happened to them yesterday.
That's right.
Against the Buffalo
Tage
Sabres.
Thompson and
Tage Thompson and Peterka.
With both having a hat trick in that game.
Yeah.
So it's crazy at the bottom. One place that isn't crazy is at the top of the standings in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
At the top of the league,
Yeah.
the Washington Capitals, they go to Calgary.
Baller.
And it was a very entertaining game last night. They get a win on the road against the Flames. They have the best record in the league right now, best point percentage at 730 point percentage. On the road this year, 18-7-1. And they've just been good everywhere they have gone this year. They're 8-1-1 in their last 10. You can see the road records there. They're up there with Minnesota, Florida, Colorado, Winnipeg. But I don't know what to say about the Washington Capitals. Your guy, Logan Thompson, in his hometown.
Unbelievable.
Slicing and dicing, getting the job done.
Unbelievable. All year long. Let me rephrase that. Since breaking the trade at the draft, that he was getting traded from Vegas to Washington, I was saying.
Did you break that trade?
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I'm saying, look out, watch out. I said, well, and look, it's always fun. It's so huge to be able to go home and play in front of your family and friends and put on a show, especially for the people that know you when you had a snotty nose and 10 cents in your pocket. So great for Logan Thompson and his dad and the family. They showed his dad in the stands. Great road win for the team. I got to tell you, when you watch, look at the.
Those are pretty sick. Those are sick numbers. 2 losses.
This is hard to do in Pee-wee.
Yes, it is.
It's hard to run those numbers in
I've been around Pee-wee hockey. It's hard.
It's very difficult to do at 12, 13 years old. You're in the NHL, you're running those numbers. That's why I've been saying from the start, he's giving Connor Hellebuyck a very good run for the Vezina up in Winnipeg. Hellebuck's been amazing. Don't get me wrong. He has a lock on it right now. But the number 2 for me, hands down, would be Logan Thompson, is how well he's played.
Yeah.
In terms of that Vezina Trophy race. And I would have had Markstrom, but Markstrom's injured right now.
Yeah,
it's going to hurt him.
He has played great. I mean, I played Pee-wee hockey when I was 23 years old. I didn't have those numbers. And I was so much bigger. I was so much bigger than those kids, and yet, boom, they still managed to beat me. I think I was like 12 and 12.
It's hard to do.
It is.
But here's the other point. Watching that broadcast yesterday, and I got to tip my hat to Ted Leonsis and Monumental, their network. I watched. It would be easy to watch the Flames broadcast. I told you we've got family all across Alberta, my wife. Anyway, all that to say, I watched the Monumental broadcast. Remember I said yesterday about the vibes around the Caps?
Yeah.
Vibes were unbelievable. Broadcast, pre-game, intermissions, post-game, interviews with the players. And it's coinciding with how they're playing.
Yeah.
They just have a very good environment that they've now cultivated in Washington again. Yeah. And it's nice to see with only, 4 guys from the Cup-winning roster?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a great job they've done there throughout their organization, the minors, and it gives me, as you mentioned, their broadcast, a quick moment to give a shout out to Craig Laughlin, who's
the Locker,
health issues. Locker, we love you, and we miss you. Alan May was on with Joe B.
Maisie was on last night. He had on a sharp suit. Both him and Joe B. had sharp suits last night. They look sharp.
They always look good.
They look sharp.
They always look good. How about Tom Wilson last night?
That was amazing.
He got hit I thought really hard.
He
got cross-checked to the corner. He's down, kind of writhing in pain. And then they're saying he's selling it, and I mean, look at this. Ow!
Yeah,
the guy who hit him is a big guy.
Tom Wilson doesn't sell things very often. He doesn't need to because he's a specimen. Yeah.
And then he gets into it with the bench.
Yeah. And then he goes in. I love that. And he's going back and forth because him and Rasmus Anderson had something going all game. And this is you'll see it momentarily here.
Whistle.
So that's the carryover. See? So Anderson's mocking him, and Tom Wilson's going to give him one. He's like, hey, you want a little piece? He goes, look at the size of your head. So that's why he's doing this. And he does it with the helmet. So it's unbelievable. So this is the part of the game. Oh, and now Anderson's going back. So the fans at the Dome were loving it. Wilson had one. I don't know if you saw it, when he did this.
Yeah.
He had one with his helmet when he was like this.
Oh, really? Okay.
He was like, this is how big your head is.
Yeah.
Like the helmet can't fit.
Yeah. It can't
So
fit in the
anyways.
shot either.
Yeah, exactly. So anyhow, but that's part of the banter that goes back and forth between players and the competitiveness, and it makes it fun.
And when Protas goes down and scores a big goal,
That was sweet on that breakaway.
It was like the 3-1
3-1
goal, right?
yes,
Like
yes.
then Wilson's in the box, and he is
Absolutely.
he is whooping it up in the box.
Big time.
It is so much fun.
Yeah.
In those situations when you win.
Of course.
It's so like,
It all comes
when there's
together.
chirping, it's
Yes.
so much more fun when you're on the right side of it.
100%.
Yeah.
Because in your talk, I always say hot talk. If you're going to bring hot talk, you better have hot delivery.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's hot air.
That's right, exactly.
And you don't want to be on the wrong side of hot air,
don't.
because the guys on the opposite team, the opposing, or the fans in this case at the Dome, they would have let them know.
Yeah.
But that was a big road win for them, coming off of Logan Thompson's contract. Big team win off of his extension on the road. Now they have one more game up in Ottawa on that road
Right.
trip.
And you know what? We're going to be on the show for, obviously all the way through the end of the year into the summer, I hope.
You know people. Make it happen.
We need Spencer Carberry on the show at some point. So I'm pleading with you.
I'm texting his agent.
I'm pleading with Spencer Carberry right now. I'm
texting his
pleading with
agent.
Sergey, the PR guy, does a great job there.
Sergey Kucherov. I'm texting his
agent right now. A lot of love
now.
for Washington,
Yep.
but we do need to get Spencer on at some point in time.
Absolutely.
So try to do that. All right. Wednesday, we got 5 games on the slate. A bunch of notable games there. Got some good games on the slate. And I want to circle in on that Kings-Panthers game because we have this tweet. Big news. Coach Jim Hiller confirms that Drew Doughty is playing tonight. That's from Dave Pagnotta. So Drew Doughty back in the lineup. He's missed 47 games to this point. So week C, they get the big dog back in LA, and they've played pretty well even without him.
Yeah, so let me stay on this. Amazing for Drew Doughty. Future Hall of Fame lock. Happy to see Dewey back in the lineup and healthy. It's been a long road for him. We know he's one of the great defensemen, not only this generation, but obviously he'll be a Hall of Fame lock, as I've said to him numerous times, and he knows. But he's itching to get back. Overall, the LA Kings have had a really good year. So all props to Drew Doughty coming back. Let me give you the however, though.
Okay, give me a however.
Because I didn't notice my tweet up there, but that's okay.
Yeah. What did you tweet?
Brant Clark leads the team in points by a defenseman.
Yes, he does, and he's not in the
Young
lineup.
D-man, and he came here to visit us, him and Alex
did.
LaFerriere, Jersey kid, and Alex's parents, who were very nice. His
Yes, they
family
were.
came in. They were outstanding
Awesome.
people. Came in studio here, and they joined us here at NHL Network when the Kings were here on the East Coast Swing. Brant Clark's a healthy scratch. He leads the team in points. He's got one of the best Corsi ratings of any D-man in the league. I don't know. To me, that's a head scratcher. He's a talented young D-man, very gifted offensive D-man.
I agree. He was a high draft pick.
8th overall,
Yeah.
whatever. He's done everything they've asked of him in terms of, at every level, shredded up the OHL, shredded up the American League, and now he leads their team in points by defensemen. So, all that to say, I'm curious to see if they see him as a fit in their plans going forward, or if they don't, which is the essence of the tweet. And should they explore a trade option for him? I know there'll be a lot of healthy interest in the market. So I'm curious to see what the Kings do. I love Blakey and Luke. We know them a long time. They do an outstanding job out there. But I just think with Doughty coming back, this could be a piece perhaps that they may use to go and get another piece for their team. Curious to see if that happens.
It's possible because, let's face it, a right shot, puck-moving, offensive guy like Brant Clark will be a valuable piece. I'm not ready to think they're going to trade him. We'll see how it plays out, but you make a good point because he's played very, very well for the LA Kings.
And diminished ice time all of a sudden, too, as he leads them in points.
Listen, Mikko Rantanen just got traded.
Yeah.
I mean,
anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
That's true.
Gretzky got traded.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right.
Anyway, all right, let's get to the Devils and the Flyers tonight because this is sad news for me. I mean, it's sad when it's any player, but Sheldon Keefe says Nico Hischier will miss tonight's game and is week to week. And the team will see how he feels next week. He got dinged around in a game against Montreal. And he's had some issues in the past.
Yes.
And he's such a hard player, and we've talked about him a number of times. He is one of those guys, 200-foot player, backboard to backboard, a terrific two-way center, helps you win. He was the first overall pick several years ago now, and just a terrific player. Sad to see these guys week to week. Now, again, for the Devils, they already lost. Markstrom is going to be out. The good news is we're getting into that Four Nations window, so there's some time for rest. But you can see what's gone on in January here with the Devils. It has not been a great month, and they're really struggling to score. And I do wonder, like, you know, with Hischier being out and Markstrom being out, I mean, maybe they fall back to the pack. They're lucky they have that little bit of a cushion.
Yes.
But a little bit concerning, and I just hope that Nico Hischier is going to be okay.
Yeah, I hope Nico Hischier is going to be okay because he's had some of those health challenges, as we know. And hopefully for him, because he's such an impactful player, impactful person. 100%. He is the definition of consistent. He is like a Swiss watch, and he happens to be from Switzerland. Consistent. You said it. It works. It's dependable. You know what you're getting. You put him out on the ice. He's a matchup guy. He scores goals. He makes plays. You can use him in any situation as a coach and just sit back in your rocking chair. The challenge now in his absence, and I like your point with that of Markstrom, is I'm speaking to the Devils a couple weeks ago. I think what'll be interesting for them is, of course, they're looking at the marketplace. They would like to perhaps add another depth defenseman, and they would also like to add some more depth scoring in their group. I'm wondering if these injuries kind of impact that decision-making, in addition to some of the stuff with Nemec, who I understand as a young player feels like, hey, I want to be in the league. I'm doing what you've asked of me in the American League.
I've been Clark, right?
We talked about Brandt Clark. So just curious to see if Nemec could be a guy with Casey already being there in the American League, and obviously having Luke Hughes, a budding young star defenseman on the back end. If the Devils may make a move or two, I'm curious to see.
Well, the trade deadline isn't too far off, so we'll see what happens. And, you mentioned the Swiss watches there. I know somebody would love a Swiss watch.
I do too.
Your dad.
He would love one. Yeah, he would love one.
Reach into the pocket once in a while. Help out your dad. All right, we got a quick tweet here. And this is really interesting news. This one from Elliot. Hearing Brandon Saad and the St. Louis Blues are working on a mutually agreed contract termination. Follow that up with Saad will walk away from his remaining salary this season and the $3.63 cash next year. He wants to play in the NHL, obviously. Both the player and team felt this gave him the best opportunity to do so. Next year's salary and cap hit is $4.5. That's a big hurdle for other teams. So he loses some cash and all this, but he's hoping to sign. Hey, maybe the Devils could pick up a big strong.
You'd be a nice fit there. Great call.
Like Brandon Saad. Coming up, Carolina Hurricanes made the news last week picking up the big guy, Rantanen. Their GM, Eric Tulsky, joins us next on First Shift. Well, not even a week ago, huge trade. Last Friday evening, the news broke. In the end, Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall end up with the Carolina Hurricanes. Marty Necas, Jack Drury end up in Colorado, a couple of draft picks as well. The Hawks retain salary on Rantanen. They get a third-round pick for their trouble. And joining us now, I would say a friend of the show. It's his second appearance on the show this season, the general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, Eric Tulsky. And he was obviously the guy that made this, one of the guys that made this deal happen. Thanks for taking the time. And I'll just start by, like, how long had you had your eye on the potential of Rantanen? Because, like, usually we think of star players and, like, they're not getting traded. But obviously you guys have had conversations leading up to it. What was that trail like leading up to Friday night?
Yeah, so we were sort of floating concepts for a long time. I would say it got pretty serious in the last 2 weeks, and we were exchanging offers back and forth, trying to figure out how to get it done.
Eric, hold on now. I just saw you. Eric, don't mess around now. I just saw you and Tom downstairs in Dallas. And I asked him, I was like, hey, so are you guys in on something? Yeah. He had that eye of the tiger, Eid. You just asked
told me that.
He had that. It was like this.
Cheshire cat.
He gave me one of these.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, presto changeo, the deal came to fruition. But listen, you guys identify needs all the time internally, as does every club.
Yeah.
And when you look at that, there is a need for your team to add a game breaker to your mix. We know you guys are a Stanley Cup contender, but adding the game breaker, was that part of the thought process for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, look, we just want to keep getting better. And as long as there are players out there who can help move us forward, we're always going to be trying to figure out a way to make it work.
Well, you got a pretty significant Finnish player among a couple on your team in Sebastian Aho. Was there any conversation with him at all, trying to kind of, gain some other knowledge about Rantanen?
Yeah, I mean, not really. We were trying to keep it quiet. I mean, Colorado didn't want their player's name getting out there.
Sure.
They didn't want the media circus that comes with that. No offense to you guys. And so we were trying to honor that and keeping it tight internally to help make sure that, that it didn't get out until it was time.
Okay, well, we know we're not a part of the media circus, but we totally understand what you mean.
We're at the show.
We're at the show.
Yeah, we're there.
We're here to help amplify. We're here to help amplify.
Yeah.
All of that to say, and augment, but all that to say, okay, what's the latest now? You've got him. Raleigh's a great place to live and play. Played there. Understand the entire marketplace. Now, where does it stand? Would you guys be actively trying to sign Rantanen, or is that a conversation that will evolve over time?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we would love to get it done. We're talking to him and his agent. Realistically, he needs a little bit of time, right? He's played in one place his whole career. He doesn't. Today's his first day in Raleigh, right? So he needs
that's right.
time to get to know us, get to know the city, get to know the coach. But you're right. We have a lot to offer. We have a good team. We have a good place to play, and we're confident that as he gets to know that, he's going to feel comfortable, and we'll find a way to get this done.
All right, Eric, you're a lot smarter than us two yo-yos here. We've already had you on. I know your background, and you're a very, very smart guy. So I know you know math, you know the numbers.
Yeah.
His agent is the same agent as Draisaitl. Draisaitl got $14 million on the long-term deal there. Now, I don't know if he's getting $14 million, but, I mean, it sounds like he wants to get a significant number here. I mean, can the Carolina Hurricanes get to an area that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, we think we can make a really compelling offer. We wouldn't have done this if we didn't think we could. We won't really know how it's going to end up until there's pen on paper. We're ready to sign. He's not yet, understandably. He needs to get to know us first. We think we can make an offer that will help get that done. But ultimately, it takes 2 signatures to make a contract. So it's up to him to decide what he wants to do.
Yeah, no question about that. Let me ask you this, because I think you guys were part of this group. We've seen, like, in pro sports generally, I think we saw it with the Dodgers. I think we've seen it in hockey. I think you guys have done a little of this deferred money. Is that something that you think, is that the wave of the future here as the cap goes up and people are trying to figure out their budgets? Is that something that, you guys like to think about in these kind of situations?
I mean, look, we want to be creative and we want to put everything on the table to help make sure we can get a deal done that makes sense for both sides. And sometimes that's something that helps. Sometimes it's not. We're willing to explore it and figure out what makes sense in each individual case. Ultimately, we want a contract both sides are happy with.
Eric, I've got a strong appetite for the sports business side of this as well. Do some reporting on that side of it. One of the kind of underreported stories, and I'll give you a chance to speak to it, is the appreciation and the growth on the business side, and not only the valuation, but the business side. Going back to the Stadium Series game that really each supercharged.
That was an unbelievable event.
It was unbelievable.
Did a great job that night. That was unbelievable.
Absolutely. That just supercharged kind of the growth and the value. I see it there. And the revenue and everything down there. So does that kind of success on the business side kind of lend itself to you guys being able to make this trade and ultimately make that compelling offer that you're kind of referring to?
Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, it is a business and ownership has to decide what they're willing to put in and, how much they're willing to invest. Tom's been really great at that. We've spent to the cap or above every year he's been here, and that's put us in a situation to have a competitive team, and he wants to win more than anything. And if we have a player who we think can help us win, the question is going to be, how do we fit in the cap? How do we make it work? And his expectation is, as long as the team keeps winning, the business will come along to support it.
Eric, this is your first year in that chair as the general manager in Carolina, and there's been a lot of smoke around a lot of stories. We've heard about what's gone on in Vancouver. There's different teams. You carried out this whole kind of discussion with Chris McFarland in Colorado, and it was really under the radar. Are you finding that there's a lot more conversations? I'm not asking you who you're talking to or who about, although if you want to volunteer it, we're here for you.
Yeah, we wouldn't be mad.
But we wouldn't shy away from that. But, are you having more conversations maybe than you thought you were going to have at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, we try to be a really active team. Our least favorite thing in life is when a deal gets done and we look at it and say, well, we would have paid more than that. Why didn't they call us?
Yeah.
And the only way you can make sure that won't happen is to call everybody and make sure you know what they're up to. And, let them know, hey, we'd be interested in that if, here's a price we'd pay. And if they get a higher price, they'll go a different way, and that's fine. But it's part of my job to keep making the calls and make sure I know what's going on out there so that I can be in if there's an opportunity for us.
Sure. And to that point, you guys had a broker, kind of a facilitator, if you will, in Chicago in this deal to kind of engineer some of these deals. Sometimes it takes that level of creativity. As we approach the upcoming trade deadline, can you see a situation where there may be a few more clubs that are looking to play the role of broker to help facilitate upcoming deals?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you see that at the deadline every year. It's a little less common early because teams aren't sure where they're going to be yet, and they don't want to use a retention slot and then find out they needed it for their own guy. But as they get close to the deadline and sort out their own situations, there will be a lot of teams that are open to doing that.
So, Eric, you got your goalie back, or one of your goalies, Freddie Anderson. He looked great last night in a shutout against the New York Rangers. He's been back for 3 games, has played very well. So goaltending seems to be solid for right now. As you look into the crystal ball a little bit, you have Rantanen in there. Is there, I mean, you say it, right? You're always trying to get better, so we get that. But is there an area that you say, boy, I'd like to have one more D. I'd like to maybe have another center. Is there something that you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, you stole my line, but yes, we're trying to get better everywhere.
Yeah.
And, we try really hard not to get pigeonholed and have a really narrow focus where there's one specific need and we have to pay whatever it takes to get that. We don't want to miss any opportunities to get better. And up and down the lineup, there will be opportunities all over the place. So we're trying to stay flexible and trying to make sure we can be in on anything that'll help.
All right. Well,
Nice.
listen, Eric, thanks so much for taking the time. Second time this year. So you have a special place in our hearts now because we love it when you guys come on and kind of help us bring that to the fans. So,
pardon me, I got a 3rd-degree burn from when I was there. His phone was so hot.
yeah.
The phone was so hot before the trade. I don't have the gauze on it right now, Eric, but nonetheless, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
echoing
no,
you
it's
just
my
point.
pleasure. When I get to 5 appearances, I get a jacket, right?
You should get something.
You got that
now,
right.
I've been here
I was
almost
gonna
10
say-
years, and I haven't got anything. So, we'll
love
see what
it.
we can do for you.
I love it.
I appreciate it. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
Eric
Best of
Tulsky,
luck.
general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes. When we come back, Steve Kouleas will join us. He's going to be involved with the Four Nations tournament. We'll talk about that next on First Shift.
From live play-by-play to your favorite game day anthems and the biggest sports podcasts in the world, the iHeartRadio app lets you take it all with you wherever you go. Download the free iHeartRadio app today.
Here's a tweet from our friends at Sirius XM NHL. Breaking news, Channel 91, Sirius XM NHL, they have the call for the Four Nations face-off, and you can see the lineup there, but look at the top. Who's calling the games? Our guy, Steve Kouleas, doing the play-by-play, and so we welcome him in now. Cooley, thanks for joining us as you normally do here on your Wednesday spot, but congratulations on that opportunity. I know those things are very exciting. I've had the good opportunity, the good fortune to do more play-by-play over the last several years. You must be excited about this calling the best of the best now, coming up only in a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, very excited. Naturally a little nerves. This is when you move in the one direction and then you kind of slide. It reminds me of my days with the Oshawa Generals and Scarborough Arena Gardens, right? Weeksy,
Absolutely.
Stan Butler, Nancy Zinos, now
Yep.
Nancy Newman, and everything we've talked about before. Thank God for that training ground like Wayne's World. I remember calling Eric Lindros's game with
Yep.
the St. Michael's
Buzzers, my old team.
Yeah. There you go. So it's a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, it's radio. So nobody will really know, but it's great that we know all 92 players. This isn't the Spengler Cup and Yekaterinburg. I don't even know where it was. Guys.
Hey, I love the Spengler. I played in that. I had a blast in that tournament too. But here's what I would ask you. Coming in, everybody's wanted each best on best for the longest time. What are you most looking forward to about the tournament, Cooley?
Well, I mean, my dad was in Moscow. My memory begins at that age. Not going to give away a number, but I remember the first game, the Canada Cups, the privilege of sitting behind Grant Fuhr in the '87 Canada Cup for $30. being involved in the 91 Canada Cup inside the dressing room with Marc-Andre Fleury, Theo Fleury pouring a Labatt Blue on me, having been at the Olympics and doing the World Cup and everything else, and being at this event in a different role and watching what will be elite skill like we've never seen before, like we saw in 87 and 2010 and everything else. And it's about time. Our sport has something that the others really don't. The NFL will never play anybody else because nobody will ever be good enough or really love the sport that much. We've seen it in the NBA. Baseball players are, it's not the same. We've got it. I'm looking forward to the speed, the skill, and the drama of this event, Kevin.
Nice. We got some news because Samuel Ersson of the Philadelphia Flyers has been added to Team Sweden. You can see here's a note from Elliot Friedman, formally naming Samuel Ersson as its replacement for Jacob Markstrom. How does this impact things? Because, Gustafsson had been the guy everybody thought maybe he'll be the starter. He's struggled as of late with Minnesota, so the door might be open for the Team Sweden.
It might be, and I'm curious what's going to end up happening with Linus Ullmark. Travis Green also saying today that he expects him to play later this week. How does the Sens feel about that? Is he the number one with what you talked about, Gustafsson? I mean, you can ride one guy. I mean, the Czechs had one goalie in '98. How did that work out? Pretty good.
And this is only 4 games too, Cooley, right? Like you play 3 games, you play a championship. So you're only asking somebody to play 4 games.
Yeah, and if you have one bad game like Liut in 81, you're the lowest of the low, as Dennis Bayak said, the snake in the bottom of a wagon wheel rut. Like people stayed away from like Liut. He played one bad game, so that's what happens in a tournament like this. But good for Sam. He's been good since he's come back for Philly.
Go ahead, Each.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, we get to the, we've been talking about it all week since last Friday when it occurred, the big Mikko Rantanen trade, and, he gets moved to Carolina. The Canes beating the New York Rangers, shutting them out last night. How does this trade, I mean, obviously there's other guys that their contracts are up. Mitch Marner comes to mind right away, but how do you think this impacts the market now that Rantanen is moved in this blockbuster last week?
Yeah, isn't it great to have a trade? Like, isn't it so much fun?
It's better when you're on the air. It's better when it happens when you're on the air. That's the best time.
Yeah. Well, did I tell you what happened when Joe Thornton was traded? I was on the air with Ludsey and Strack, and Strack says, there'll never be a trade. Because of the capped world, there'll never be a trade. In my ear, Spearsy, this just in, Joe Thornton has been traded to San Jose. So,
that's a tough one.
That was a lot of fun. Sorry, Strack, but honestly, I do believe if you've got someone and they don't fit into your future in terms of cap management, you do the best you can do. And I think it's a good trade for Colorado and a great trade for Carolina. Eric Tulsky was on the show earlier this week. He says it's different than Gensel. They've got cap space, the relationship with the Finns on the club. So I do believe certain teams will look at this and say, what's honestly happening with our guy, which might reflect a Mitch Marner situation that we really think will get one done, or we'll have to move off because there's too much at stake for letting someone go and only getting their cap space. Cap space is important, but what else can you get, especially if you don't think that you can really win right now? The Avs were able to make a move slightly worse, but Nature's just fit in well. He's got 4 points, looks pretty good playing with those guys, although who wouldn't? So I think it'll make other teams say, where are we with our guy? Are we going to rent him or trade him? And hopefully we have a lot of those trades come March 7th.
Yeah, I hope that's the case as well. Let me ask you, Steve, about the JT Miller situation, Elias Pettersson in Vancouver. We've talked about it. You've talked about it a lot on your show as well. Jimmy Rutherford just recently talked about it. It seems like something has to happen sooner. It's a tough spot because, listen, they don't want to give the guy away. He's a really terrific player. But what do you make of the market for JT Miller?
I think they're going to have to lose the trade, guys. I don't know how you feel about that. It's almost as if, okay, if it's a Hedl and Schneider and eat $1 million, still try to beat Calgary to make the playoffs, which could still happen, but it's time. Mom and dad need a divorce. They've tried it. They've gone to counseling. They've talked to everybody. It's not happening. And when Jim Rutherford comes out and says what he does via the Globe and Mail and everything else, it's funny how they were denying it before. I think at one point, let's stop lying, especially when people know. I mean, off the record before it came out, Bruce Boudreau told us, when I got there, they told me that there was a problem with these guys. Well, Bruce is long gone. Rick's been there now. So if they can't fix it, Someone's got to move. Age difference, everything else. It's not Carolina now. Could it be a Dallas, New Jersey, or New York? I think sometimes you have to fish or cut bait. That's where we are. Miller has to go, in my mind, guys, by March 7th.
Weeksy, let me ask you, would you rather trade Pedersen? I mean,
That's
now
the
he's got a
question.
lot of money on it, but I might want to keep Miller. I mean, this is all the things that come into play here.
Yeah, exactly. That's a question. Like, do you move Pedersen?
If you can.
If you can.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Vancouver's willing to retain, if the Aquilini brothers would want to retain or not, but that's something you could explore. He's certainly younger.
Yeah.
There's upside there. Of course, he's underperformed.
More
as we
money,
were saying,
more money attached.
but more money attached plus term.
Yeah.
But it's here's another question, I guess. Do they trade both?
Yeah.
Do you swing for the fences and trade both? It's a possibility.
I guess.
Depending on what return
the
you can get.
offers are,
Exactly. What your thoughts?
Yeah,
Chris?
it could if say it was the Islanders. Although right now, every time I tell a team, it's every time I call the fat lady in a box, a team seems to turn it around. Montreal, Columbus, Ottawa, and now the Islanders. But you know, if it's a Pedersen, they traded Horvat. Horvat moved on. Barzell or something else. I think they'll see how Elias does without Miller for a little bit. And remember, Besser's UFA. Minnesota's going to have cap money. That's an easy connection in the offseason if Besser is to go to Minnesota. So if you lose, you know, Miller, and then you're talking about trading Pedersen, and then you lose Besser, how does Quinn Hughes feel? And if you've got, you know, DeBrusk that you brought in with the Pedersen, that can be the foundation of a first line, what you get for JT Miller and the cap space you could use if Besser ended up leaving. So I don't see a realistic scenario. They both go while they still have, you know, some good players, including one of the very best players in the game in Hughes. It just feels with the age. And remember, Miller missed 10 games. How did Pedersen do in those games? 15 points. He looked like the guy that was basically a 100-point guy. So it just feels, and Kevin, you're the guy breaking everything. Every time I get up in the morning, I go to your Twitter. So that's what I do. See your forehead. And so anyway, it's got to be Miller. I think Pedersen stays and is not traded.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you
Yeah.
about Mitch Marner because, you know, we just talked about Rantanen, high-end player, going to potentially be a free agent on July 1. Carolina, I'm sure, will try to sign him. We'll see how that plays out. Toronto is trying to figure out what they're going to do with Marner. Marner, meanwhile, no problem for Mitch Marner. He's rolling along, having a great season. Do you have any idea or any thought of how that might play out moving forward? Because let's face it, Draisaitl got the $14 million, so that's changed the dynamic for some of these guys.
Yeah, and, you know, where's Mitch? If Kucherov's one and Rantanen's two and there's Pasternak, you know, there's Mitch Marner. The difference, all of those other guys have had playoff success and Mitch hasn't. For the grace of God, COVID and injuries, he should already have 2, 3, 4 100-point seasons. He kills, 220 ice time a game? One of the best penalty killers. And the thing about Mitch is you absorb these numbers and how good he is. Remember, he went, 6 spots higher in that 97 draft class of 2015. He's been first and second team All-Stars. He can do so many great things. It hasn't translated in the postseason. He hasn't been able to get to middle ice. But if you crunch the underlying numbers too and you put him up against Mikko Rantanen, especially this year, Mitch has been unbelievable. Offense, defense, high danger, everything else. I mentioned the penalty kills. And how about this as a number? In the Matthews-Marner administration, although they're a year apart, they came in, a true rookie for Matthews and Marner the following year. These guys, the Maple Leafs, have won when everyone has been out of the lineup. Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, Riley, but not Marner. It's a losing record when Mitch Marner is out of the lineup, and they win when everybody else is out. What does that mean for 13 or 14? The real belief in the people who know here are he does not want to leave. Does that affect the leverage position and the number as it relates to 13 and change with Matthews? Does he match that and stay in his own backyard? It feels more like that could happen, especially with a little bit, guys, of playoff success, which, as you know, has not come around here since everything was in black and white.
There you go. There you go. Hey,
No doubt.
before we let you go, do you have any prediction for tonight? I know you got the goal horn nearby, so I don't like to, if you have it there and you want to, give us a pick, let's hear it.
You're complimenting me more than I did with Ludsey, the back and forth play here. So since we talked about Mitch Marner, how about no Kaprizov? Oh, I feel bad about that. Marner gets 2 points. A 2-point game for Mitch Marner as the Maple Leafs get ready to go west, young man. Go west.
All right.
Nice,
There you
nice.
go. Cooley, good luck
Yeah,
with
thanks,
the Four
Cool. Thank you,
Nations.
man.
I look
Best of luck.
forward to hearing the call.
Yeah.
Thank you. Will I see all you? Like, are we gonna have a beverage?
Well,
From a distance.
Yeah, listen.
I'll be at home in
there's
South
always-
Beach.
There's always that opportunity. We'll see.
Okay. Thank you
right.
very much for the kind words.
All right. Steve Koulias on our Wednesday spot. Coming up, Aiden Hill was showing off his new Team Canada gear today. Our goaltending guru,
Aye.
Kevin Weeks, will weigh in on his thoughts when we return on First Shift. Well. Here's a tweet from the Vegas Golden Knights. Aiden Hill trying out the new setup for the Four Nations face-off when he'll be in there for Team Canada. Got the maple leaf there on the pads. I turn it over to you, Mr. Weeks, the expert in all things goaltending setup.
I think they look sweet. Brian's did a great job. The Kings of Custom in Kingsville, Ontario. That's Brian's. So shout out to Brian's. Everybody knows I've been a Vaughn guy / Brian's guy. They're both owned by
Yeah.
Mike Vaughn
Old
now.
school, old school.
Absolutely. Mike Vaughn owns both of them, and two great companies. So they do an unbelievable job of mocking up gear. They're very creative. I think these look great with that kind of retro cream and the maple leaf on them. They look awesome. And then also the faux holes in the blocker face as well. The waffle board, right?
beat me to
All
it.
you need to do is pour a little maple syrup on that. Just let it drip
That's
down.
The old waffle
The waffle
board. there.
board.
I like,
Old school.
Yeah, that's
old
the
school.
first thing that stood out to
Yes.
me was those like the waffle board. And the
So
circle.
good.
You don't see that anymore.
You don't see that.
Remember
That's
that?
rare.
Remember guys used to really like
Curve them.
up.
Yeah, you would heat them over the stove and curve the
They were
board.
like, what were they like?
Yeah.
Kind of plexi?
It
or
was a
something?
plexi and a plastic inside.
Yeah.
So guys would put it over the stove, try not to burn the face, and then curve
Try
them.
not to burn the face. Good idea.
Yeah. Try not to
Good
burn the
idea
face,
there.
because then you know you're going to get your fingers broken with a slapper under here if you curve it too much.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
Old school.
Old school. We know. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing all the
Yeah.
different
Me too.
goalies because
Me too.
everybody's got their unique take.
That's right. That's right. I want to see more creativity in the gear, and
All right.
so far that's a great
You
start.
know, your dad bought you all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Growing up.
Oh yeah.
Thank-
Oh yeah. They're
thank you.
tuned in. Don't worry.
Paying back.
Him and my mom might even say more.
Yeah, all right. See you tomorrow.
Love you guys.